National Conference on Making Higher Education Accessible and Available 2022. Session 2 will focus on the theme, a social impact study of empowering girls with higher education. The goal of the session is to study the social impact of empowering girls through practical examples and thus finding clear pathways for making higher education available and accessible for girls and socially backward students. We have with us today Ms. Sumita Ghosh, Founder and Manager Director, Rangsutra Crafts. Mr. Madan Padaki, Founder and CEO of OneBridge. Dr. Rupa Vasudevan, Chancellor of the Bharatiya Engineering, Science and Technology Innovation University. And we also have with us Dr. K.P. Sailila, the chairperson of all the girls' campuses of the Sri Sathya Sai Lokaseva Gurukulam group of institutions. We will begin this session with Ms. Sumita Ghosh. Ms. Sumita is the founder-director of Rangsutra, a social enterprise that seeks to engender socio-economic transformation through handicrafts and handlooms in India by engaging both the community of artisans and the market for handcrafted products. Prior to starting Rangsutra in 2006, Ms. Sumita lived and worked closely with rural communities in India, primarily in rural Rajasthan, on the issues of integrated community development with a focus on women empowerment. She was a recipient of the Nari Shakti Award in 2016 from the President of India for her work related to the empowerment of women and rural artisans. She will be addressing us on the topic, creating opportunities for self-sufficiency amongst rural women. Ms. Sumita, please.
Take out one. Namaste. Thank you for inviting me here to your lovely campus. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really feel honored to be part of all the deliberations and celebrations here today. So let me give you a little background of how I came to work with rural India. So I grew up in the city of Mumbai, and in a middle-class household. And, you know, like most students who do reasonably well in school, I was sort of encouraged to take up the science stream. So in class 11, I took up the science stream. Then in 12th, I went to college. We had college in Bombay. And when I went to college, I realized, and that was the first time I was really, you know, getting out of the house more often, taking a bus, going to college. And I realized that I didn't really want to be stuck in the chemistry lab doing experiments. I was more interested in the world outside, in, you know, meeting with people, my classmates who had come from different parts of the city and the country, actually, in Mumbai. So I took this first decision, which was a bold decision, actually, to tell my father that, no, I don't want to be a doctor. I don't know what I want to be, but let me study arts. So I moved to humanities. And when I did that, you know, I had so much more time, actually, because we didn't have to spend hours in physics, chemistry labs, that I got a chance to understand society around me. And if you're in Mumbai, you cannot just turn a blind eye to the disparities. That on the one hand, there were people like me who had a warm home to get back to, food to eat, school to go to, but there were so many people who lived on the pavements of Mumbai. And I asked myself, why is it that, you know, I'm fortunate and they are not? And then on studying a little, on asking some more questions, I realized that many of the people who lived on the streets of Mumbai actually came from rural India. Rural Maharashtra, rural Rajasthan, rural UP, rural everywhere from other parts, where they did not have opportunities. There were no opportunities, very few opportunities for work. So they came to Bombay to make a better life for themselves. Anyway, after I finished my studies and I got a master's degree in economics, I decided enough and I need to do some work. So I went and found a job. No one will give a job to a master's in economics in Bombay. I mean, there are many, many people looking for jobs. But anyway, I got a job in a craft shop which sold handicrafts and antiques. And while I was working there for a very short time, actually less than 2 years, I realized again that there was a difference and a real disparity between the ones who actually made the handicrafts, the products. They could be small bags, they could be wood carvings, and the owners who owned the place. So while it was being made by artisans, the one who really got the cream of the profits and got the value were the ones who had the money to set up a shop. Anyway, that stayed in my mind, and then later, I got married to my classmate from university, and who was much more passionate about living and working in villages. And so I also went, and that's how I went to live and work in a small place called Loon Karansar in Bikaner district of Rajasthan. It was for me quite a culture shock, frankly, because I had grown up in Mumbai and it was very different. And what we were doing there was actually working with the Urmul dairy. The Urmul, I think it was Mr. Shivakumar earlier who talked about Amul and the milk revolution. So similarly, there was an Urmul dairy in Rajasthan, Uttar Rajasthan Milk Union Limited, and they set up a trust, Urmul Trust, to cater to the health of women and children. So that's how my husband and me went to work there, and we started working with women and children around issues of maternal and child health. And we literally had to go house to house to get women to bring their children to immunize them, for them to also get educated on how you need to take care of yourself when you're pregnant and after you have a baby. It was quite a challenge, and very few schools there and very few women were educated in the schools, but it was an exciting time. In 1987, this is a year after we started working there, there was the worst drought in the history of that place. And the dairy people lost their cattle. Of course, agriculture didn't yield anything. It's a drought-prone area, the desert of Rajasthan. And we really had to question ourselves that, we can't really just be working on health and nutrition. People don't have enough to eat. So that's when we diversified and started working on, other livelihoods. We found that all women had charkhas, the wooden charkhas at home, which was kept up there, and they were not using it. So we decided we would buy wool. Bikaner is the largest wool market in Asia. It trades in wool from all over the world. So we decided we would buy the wool and give it to women to spin so that they could do that instead of working on the road as drought relief work, which was in the hot sun, that's very difficult. So anyway, we had all this wool spun, a whole hall, about half the size of, 1/4 the size of this, was full of wool, and we didn't know what to do with it. That's when we found weavers, also from Rajasthan, and we asked them if they could use the wool. They said yes. And after that, we asked them if they could train other women and men to weave. They said yes. And that's how, from spinning, it went to weaving. And we found that apart from agriculture, which is very risky in large parts of India because of rain-fed, they are dependent on the rain and there's no irrigation, craft could be a very viable way of empowering people, of giving people livelihoods. So that was, I would say, the first phase of my journey. Later on, I was on a sabbatical in the year 2001. 2001. This is 10 years after we had the structural adjustment program in our country. The economy opened up, and lots of middle-class people like myself, had access to education, had access to new jobs, because of all the companies coming in. But the people I worked with in rural Rajasthan were just struggling to stay in one place. They forget sort of growing with the fantastic growth that India had. They were just struggling to stay alive, literally. So that's when a few of us that I had worked with before, artisans and colleagues, we decided we'd set up a company. We said that, if it has to be sustainable, it cannot be dependent on grants. Because, okay, someone will give you a grant for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, but at the end of it, you have to be able to stand on your own feet. And, we have all this heritage of craft, knowledge of handloom, hand embroidery, tie and dye, and all the wonderful crafts in our country. And there is a market for it. There is a market for it, both in India and outside. So why don't we start a company? So we started the company and, of course, went to a bank for a loan, and the bank said, no way, where's your collateral? Do you have land? Do you have buildings? Do you have, show us your balance sheet of the last 3 years. We said, no balance sheet, we are starting out, you have to help us. This is the year 2006, okay? And 2005, yeah. And we said, now what do we do? What do we do? So I went back to the artisans I work with, met several of them, and we decided that, okay, the artisans had been organized in self-help groups. There are many self-help groups around rural India, and they had some savings of them. And so all of them said, we'll put in 1,000 rupees each. So 1,000 artisans put in 1,000 rupees each. And with that 10 lakhs of money, we started our company. That was the first equity. And okay. That was Rang Sutra is the name of the company that we started. And after they put in the money, I got very worried. I felt very responsible. I did not come from a background of business people. Okay, I had a degree in economics, but economics teaches you to, make theories, not really run a business. And all my experience was in social work, literally social work, social service, not even enterprise. Well, it was entrepreneurial, now I look at it. And so what I did, I took loans from friends and family, put in another 10 lakhs, and with 20 lakhs we started. And then we had, help from social impact investors who were just coming up for the first time around the early 2000s. Madanji will know a little bit more about them. So other people invested in our company, and we formed Rang Sutra. And this is the kind of area where we work in. As you'll see, it's total desert. When you go there for the first time, you feel, how can people grow anything here? How do people live? But my living there before, when I was working with the NGO, I realized that people have so much of resilience because it's a drought place. They save water. They save water. They save everything. It's all recycled. None of the villagers have garbage dumps. You will never see any waste lying around because the smallest bit of plastic is woven into a floor mat. And of course, food is never wasted, water is never wasted, so you won't find, dirty water here, there, everywhere. And so I mean, in the sense that we do talk about, being city educated, I felt rural women need a lot of help. Yes, they do. And we did offer that help. But in return, I also learned a lot from the women that, who are members of our organization. So what we realized then after starting the organization, that if this has to be really a people-owned organization, then apart from being artisans and owners, they are also shareholders in the company, they will have to learn about how to make new products, product development. Because what happens is all our designers and the market for handcrafted goods is in the cities. And the people who are making them in the village, so they don't know what the market is and what the customer wants. So we have workshops on design, we have workshops on how to manage production, how to ensure quality, how to see that work is not delayed. And we have these cadre of people we call craft managers. They are women who show leadership and who are educated, and we train them on the job to manage production in their village. One of the things we realized is that, most of the women, especially we worked with, were all isolated in their homes. So these women you see in Barmer district, they do this most beautiful embroidery. Many of them are refugees from Pakistan. They came in 1971, and they do this most exquisite embroidery. But they are in their homes. None of them have had access. All the women you see here, maybe a few have gone, studied up to class 5. That's about it. So we realized that they needed a place to come and work, because at home there was too much of distraction. Some child would come asking for food, some guest would come and tea would have to be made. Women's work never ends at home. I mean, there's no end to it. So we created these centers, and in the centers, what we did was we made it a space where women come to learn. They come to share each other's joys and sorrows. It's their space. They come to work and they come to earn. And initially there was a lot of resistance that no, our men will not, our husbands will not allow us to come here, our fathers will not allow us to come, even if it is in their own village. But gradually they overcame that, and now if you tell them you want to work from home, they say no, we just wait to come here because, it's given us another identity as an artisan. And apart from being a mother or a daughter, we are also artisans, we are workers, and this gives us, not only does it give us money, but it's improved their self-confidence, it's helped them articulate leadership, and take on leadership and take on other things. Like with the money they earn, they're able to send their daughters to school, which is a big thing, because they feel that we didn't have the opportunity, but at least let our daughters have the opportunities. And the good thing is that the daughters, some of them are doing their MA and BA, but they are also learning the skill. They haven't given it up, which is the best thing, because they realize that this is also an expression of their creativity. It's also an opportunity to learn, because as someone said in the earlier session, that not everyone can get a job. You have to try and see how you make your own earning also. So our centers are based, our Rang Sutra is based on very clear values of inclusion. We include all women and men who want to come and learn the craft. We give them a chance to learn. Some of them practice it from before, some of them are new. So we believe that we should really ensure that we include the most marginalized. And actually, when you look at it socially and economically, craftspeople form the most marginalized sections of our society. Many of them are farmers also, but when it comes to practicing crafts, it's not a handlooms and handicrafts are not something that people want to learn if they don't come from that sector. So we are happy that this has helped, give space to crafts and handicrafts in our country, because, we don't have, we have that rich tradition. As Professor Sharma was saying in the morning, we've had such a vibrant economy in the past, before all the mills came and took over all our handloom, beautiful handloom fabric and the beautiful, natural dyes that we used to practice here. So if I go forward, this, even through the pandemic, we've managed to stay afloat. And what started as a small organization with just 3 full-time staff in 2006, today, after 16 years, we are, a team of 125 full-time people. We work with 3,000 artisans and give them full-time work. And these artisans are not just in Rajasthan, they're Eastern UP, Mirzapur and Gyanpur. They're in Kashmir, in Srinagar and Bandipora. And most recently, we've started working with bamboo artisans in Jharkhand and with silk handloom weavers in Chhattisgarh. So we are really, we think that we feel very positive, and we feel that there is a good market for this. And the market is not, okay, yes, the product is beautiful, but a lot of our buyers who buy products from us also buy the product because they are happy that the people who make the product are artisans, are owners in the business. They are not, what shall I say, exploited as workers. They have a say in, in running the business. We have artisans on our board. One sad thing is that many of the women artisans have not managed to be board directors yet. That's something we have to work on. But the men that we work with, the weavers, especially handloom weavers, they are on our board also. And we think there's a lot of scope in this. And so I'll stop now, but what I'd like to say is that, I started this venture very sort of organically, and for all of you young students here, it is, being an entrepreneur is always, there's always a right time. There is something that, like for instance, we talked about, the earlier speaker spoke about passion. And with your passion, if you combine, I would say, compassion, I think there is a great scope to do something. Take small steps wherever they are. It could be outside your, outside your campus. It could be in the city of Bangalore. It could be anywhere where you come from. And make small beginnings, do something, involve other people, and in a nutshell, just, be the change that you want to see in the world, because I think that change begins from inside of us. When we talk about empowerment, it means first empowering yourself within. And you can, at this place, at this wonderful university, you have so much of such a great opportunity to you have learned not just skills, but also, a lot of change in attitudes and how you can start something, how you can create something. This is a scene from our annual general meeting that we had. And as you will see, there are lots of women also participating. And they come to the meeting with children also. And I think all of us together, we believe that there is a lot that can be done. And our rural brothers and sisters, especially our sisters, are not the, disempowered people. They are empowered. They have the strength. They have much more strength than many of us urban educated people actually. And it comes from within, because despite all their problems, they still have a smile every morning when they light the diya, when they're feeding their children. So I think we can harness all of this, energy and create a better world for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sumita. Our next speaker is Mr. Madan Padaki. Mr. Madan Padaki is an entrepreneur working on the intersection of transforming youth, enabling entrepreneurial journeys, and empowering social change makers. As an engineer from the National Institute of Engineering, Mysore, and holding an MBA from the SP Jain Institute of Management, he worked at various corporate organizations before listening to his heart and embarking on a journey as a change maker. He then founded OneBridge in 2014 as a platform that empowers rural entrepreneurs. And I'm very happy to share that OneBridge received national acclaim and praise in 2022 from the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi. He also works closely with UNICEF India through his youth empowerment initiative called Yuva, and has been appointed as the co-convener of the Skills and Entrepreneurship Task Force set up by the Government of Karnataka. He will address us on the topic, Social Entrepreneurship, a platform to create young change makers. Mr. Madan, please. You can go with that.
Om Shanti. Good afternoon. Namaskar. Delighted to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me here. You can really feel a wonderful sense of energy here. And this is my first visit to the campus. I'm sure it will not be the last. So delighted to be here amidst all of you. The next 15 minutes, I just want to share some of my reflections and learnings of having worked with youth and young people. And a lot of women leaders. It was a terrific talk by Shmita ji in terms of her experience, and it's wonderful to hear and learn from the inspirational stories that we see all around us. And I want to share a couple of stories that have inspired me. In my previous venture, I used to run a startup called Merit Track, which started out as India's first skills assessments entity. And we used to test people. So for all the IT BPO companies, we used to be the ones testing people. So all those horrible tests that we put you through, that was all done by us. And I say horrible because now I realize the futility of such tests. We used to run aptitude tests, behavioral tests, etc. And we have tested millions of people. So my worldview is some people are employable, some are not, and that's where the world is. You know, the people who have the skills will get ahead in life. The people who don't have the skills will fall behind. We had also published India's first ever employability score, a report, which said only 25% of engineers and less than 15% of non-engineering graduates are employable. One day, I got a call from someone who said, we want to set up a rural BPO. You know, you understand what a BPO is. It's called Business Process Outsourcing Centers, largely in Bangalore those days. This was in 2007-8. And this gentleman called me to say, we want to do something in Raichur, which is North Karnataka. So I said, fine, I can help, but where will we find the talent? He said, that's why we're coming to you. Can you help find talent? I said, it's hard for graduates in Bangalore to find graduates in Bangalore who will work for the BPO. Imagine finding it in a place like Raichur. How will we ever find talent? So he said, hey, why don't we try something and take rural youth, village youth who have never been to school, never held a pencil in their lives. Is it possible to teach them English and computer skills and process orientation, etc.? And in a short span of time, is it possible to transform them to be BPO workers? I remember almost falling out of my chair laughing, saying that, hey, you can't do that with graduates in St. Joseph's College in Bangalore. What are you talking about, you know, finding youth in Raichur and converting them? But a small part of me said, why not? Right? Let's see what happens. So we went around the villages of North Karnataka. We must have visited some 50, 60 villages. Several villages we were thrown out because we used to go in saying, give me your most unemployable youth, boys and girls. And we said preferably kids who have not, youth who have not gotten to school, but they should be 18 years of age. Almost one village filed a police complaint on us saying these guys look like kidney harvesters. You know, they'll take a youth and take away the kidneys and send them back home. But finally, we found about 8 brave youth, I must say. And our criteria was that even if they have seen a train in their life, they're not as backward or not come from such low exposure villages. So our criteria was, this initial lot must have not gone to any school, must not know how to recognize any alphabet in any language, and must come from extremely low exposure backgrounds. And we said, we'll see how we can transform them. I'll play the video of one of our protagonists there, a guy called Ramesh. Ramesh comes from a village called Kotigudda near Raichur, about 60 kilometers from Raichur. And Ramesh comes from a family which is of 10 people, siblings, brothers, sisters, parents. All of them live on a 3-acre land, unarable, and the entire family earns about 3,000 rupees a month, right? And Ramesh had never been to school, never held a pencil life, met all the criteria. We asked him, have you seen a train? He said, what is it? Right? We said, okay, we have the right candidate. So if you can play Ramesh's video, the audio is very patchy. So if you can increase the volume.
My name is Start Mary.
So this is way back in 2007 or 8 in Koppal. Sure, okay. So you get the picture. Ramesh is not even able to say a sentence properly in Kannada. For some of us who understand Kannada, all he's saying is my brother's names, sister's names, parents' name. It took us like 2 hours to get him in front of this video camera. He was petrified, right? And at that time, we never realized that we'll be playing this video so many times. So that's why you'll see some grainy video. This was, again, 2007-8, when we didn't have smartphones. We had to have some really bad video cameras to record. So there were 8 boys, 6 boys, 2 girls that we managed to convince, got them to a house not very far from here. And we hired a BPO trainer and said, teach them English. The BPO trainer vanishes during lunchtime. We reach his home. He says, are you crazy? I mean, how do I teach them anything? Right? I don't even know where to begin. A few friends of mine who came from the development world said, okay, we'll give it a try. And Sunil, Rajesh, my partners, started living with these youth and figuring out a curriculum on the fly and figuring out how do you learn from within, right? How do you really give them the self-confidence to learn? I used to travel extensively during those periods, and 4 or 5 months later, I came back into Bangalore and I said, what's happening? And they said, come meet these kids. And this is the same Ramesh I met. This is the video taken after 7 months. And if you can play video number 2.
I'm Ramesh from Raichur. When I was in my village, I did not know how to write even my name in Kannada. In my village, I always wore dhoti. I never traveled on the bus. I did not know what's the time and what's the watch. I knew only 2 things: go to farm or sunrise, came back home or sunset. I had never visited a city. I did not know about city life. When I first came to Bangalore, I could not speak to anyone. And I also scared to touch a computer. When I started to learn in English, I was so scared because I did not know how to write ABCD. After these 7 months, I can type minimum at 40 words per minute. A month ago, I went to my village for my brother's wedding. My mother told me, please sir, come and have a seat. She did not recognize me. She asked, who are you? I told her, I am Ramesh, your son. As she didn't believe. Then I showed my ID card on which earlier photo was there. She looked at the photo for a while and hugged. And after every moment she cried with the tears of happiness. I never can forget that experience. Thank you.
Thank you. I still get goosebumps when I see this video. This 2 hours I spent with all 8 of them changed my life. Because I realize how wrong we are to tag people as unemployable, unfit, uneducated, unproductive. Dr. Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel laureate, said it beautifully. He says, a lot of us die without knowing what treasures lie within. So what this proved to me, and that's how was the genesis of the Head Held High Foundation, not just Ramesh, all 8 had flowered like this, massive confidence. In fact, from the 9th month onwards, we got HDFC Insurance to start giving us an insurance claims processing, and we set up a processing center in Koppal, North Karnataka. And from the 12th month, we were meeting the metrics that they used to get out of the Mumbai center. So we were able to prove that in less than a year, a youth who had never ever seen an English alphabet is able to meet the process and the metrics of a global insurance BPO, and we can be very productive in less than 1 year. Herald Eye Foundation today has touched about 25,000 such youth and transformed these youth across about 100 odd districts of the country. Interestingly, 70% of them are girls. And we have them coming from the most rural backgrounds. In fact, I use the word consciously transformation, not training, because training, you learn something, you forget, you'll come back. But a Ramesh after can ever become Ramesh before again. It's an irreversible process. In fact, 4 years later in 2011-2012, we won the CNN IBM Real Heroes Award. And you can see Ramesh 4 years later receiving this award. If you play video 3, please.
Ramesh, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 4 years ago, I had never thought of getting out of my village. Today, I am on national TV. I'm very happy to be here with all of you. 4 years ago, I didn't know how to write my name in any language. Today, I'm working in a BPO company as a team leader. My dream is to give an opportunity to all the villagers like me.
So, and there's an interesting story there. Ramesh then used to still work as a BPO team leader. He was earning 15,000 rupees a month, like 5 times his family income. In 2015, he said, I'm not happy. I'm not doing anything for my village. So he quit his job, went back to his village, and just started going around schools and colleges sharing his story. Today, he's the most sought-after speaker, motivational speaker in North Karnataka. He has touched over about 6 lakh school children and college youth, sharing his story, telling them that if I can become like this, imagine what you guys can be, right? And that journey has continued. In fact, the 4th video, I just want to play a very short clip. We were invited to be featured in Aaj Ki Raat Hai Zindagi, which was hosted by Amitabh Bachchan. And you'll see 2 of our other trainees there, and I'll pick up a story from there. If you can just play. Rajesh is my partner at the foundation.
उसका नाम है हेड हेल्ड हाई, और इस संस्था से सीखे हुए कुछ स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ पर हमारे पास हैं.
मिस्टर मेघराज मंत्री आउट हियर. जोरदार तालियां फॉर मिस्टर मेघराज मंत्री.
Before joining Head Held High, I was a grazing buffalo in the village and working in a farm and not knowing anything. Even I don't know how to write my name in any language. I never tie a watch. I never know what is a watch and time. I only know 2 things, sunrise and sunset. Going in the morning, coming in the evening.
आश्चर्य की बात है देवियों सज्जनों, बिल्कुल आश्चर्य की बात है. भैंस चराया करती थी और इनको सिवाय सूर्य उदय और सूर्य अस्त के अलावा और कुछ आता नहीं था. ये अपने आप में एक अजूबा है और इसका श्रेय जाना चाहिए राजेश भट्ट जी.
So that gives you an idea. Interestingly, Meghraj, and there was another lady sitting next to him called Chandana. So let me share with you Chandana's story. So she comes from a village called Chiknayakanhalli near Tumkur. She had finished her 10th standard, but her parents were, as usual, telling her that, we don't have money to send you to higher education. We want you to get married, just get off our books, so to speak, and go to your husband's life. We met her on one such trip, and you could see the determination in her eyes. She says, no, I want to come for this program. Her father was petrified of sending her to Bangalore, but somehow he happened to be very supportive. He said, okay, I will come to Bangalore, stay with you for 3 weeks. If I feel things are okay, then I will let you continue. Otherwise, I'm taking you back. He came, stayed for a few weeks, got comfortable and convinced that she was in a good program. Chandana completed her program, 7 months. She worked in the BPO. She then said, I want to set up my own BPO. So she took a loan of a few computers from us, started doing her own BPO. She hired some 5-6 people, started doing some work, but 6 months somebody refused to pay her dues and she went bankrupt. She came back again. She started working with us as a trainer. Today, Chandana has trained over about 800 rural youth like her from Tumkur, Davangere, Chitradurga district, and she's become one of our most successful center managers. She's also put her mother and told her that while you're sitting at home, you make some lovely papads. I will become an entrepreneur and sell your papads. And interestingly, her first customer was Taj Hotels, where she sold the papads to Taj, right? And last year, a few years ago, she got married and she convinced her husband saying, why are we just doing only commercial stuff? So she's actually opened a NGO which looks after homeless children in Electronic City and provides them a home and education. You know, two things that wogged me about her was I had a friend of mine who had come from US. He was the CEO of a large company. This is several years ago. And this guy in his usual US accent was talking about how he's the CEO of a large company. And he was asking Chandana, so what do you want to be? So she looked at him and said, I want to be a CEO. So he asked her, I think he made the mistake of asking her, which company do you want to be the CEO of? She looked at him straight into his eyes and said, why not your company? This guy was shocked. He says, this is the first time ever that somebody is asking me for my job with so much of confidence, right? Interestingly, both Meghraj and Chandana, we were invited to the IAS Training Academy in Mussoorie early this year. And 650 IAS officers listened to their story for a day. They role-played Chandana and Meghraj's journey. And at the end of the day, there was a standing ovation and they were calling her sir, her madam and sir. And that to them was a highlight to say, listen, if we can get to the most prestigious academy in the country and be referred as sirs and madams by the IAS officers, I think we have really achieved something. And I truly believe that each of us and each of you have unlimited potential. I've seen this over and over again, that if you believe in yourself, that's the only thing that you need to do. I don't know how many of you watched the movie Kung Fu Panda. Have you? Okay, some of you have watch it again. Those of you who have not watched it, try and figure out how you can watch that movie. It used to be my favorite movie. It continues to be. There are 5 mantras that will come out from that movie and anywhere else. And especially to what Shubhita-ji was saying, we all know the challenges that our country faces, right? Especially around women, we know the labor force participation is low. We know that, in fact, today there was a very disturbing report that we are ranked so low in the gender parity and gender equality index across the country. I think we are ranked some 135th in the world. Things are improving, but I believe that things won't improve till each of us believe in our own potential, right? And the Kung Fu Panda movie is all about that. It's about a panda who accidentally gets anointed as the dragon warrior, and he refuses to believe that I'm the dragon warrior. But a series of incidents and experiences, once he believes that I'm the dragon warrior, nothing can stop that warrior. And I think that's so true in each of our lives. You look at Ramesh, you look at Chandana, you look at Meghraj, you look at thousands of other youth. I think that is the change. So the mantras that I want to leave you with are the following. 1, start to dream big. There is no aspiration, no dream that is small, and no dream that is big. Imagine the wildest, biggest thing that you wish for, and wish it with all your heart, it will come true. Second, it's just not enough to dream. I think Dr. Abdul Kalam ji said it beautifully. He says, a dream is not something that you do when you're asleep. A dream is something that will not let you sleep at night, right? So have such a dream that does not allow you to sit quietly, does not allow you to sit, you're restless. You want to make it happen, right? That was the look I saw in Chandana when we had gone to bring her on board to the program. Secondly, believe in yourself. And only you can do that, right? Everything starts with self-belief. You are what you believe, right? Third is that think, and I would underline here, think entrepreneurially. The future belongs to entrepreneurs. I want to see a world where all of us who are educated, who have the privilege of being in institutions like this, go on to create jobs for 1,000 other women. Right? Because we have so much of manpower that is there and youth entering the workforce the next 10 years, how do we create jobs for all of them? I look at each one of you to think entrepreneurially, to figure out how can you set up enterprises that can employ 100, 1,000, 10,000 people. Fourth, love all, serve all is such a beautiful mantra, and I think you said passion and compassion. If you start caring for the people around you, the problems that people have becomes an opportunity for setting up an enterprise, right? That's what she saw, that there were problems but converted to an opportunity, right? So how do you operate with care and compassion? And lastly, how do you embrace change? The future is changing at a very fast pace. Embrace technology, embrace change, don't be afraid. Dream big and go on, make magic happen. I can assure you that there is tremendous magic in each one of us. If we can unleash, imagine the impact that we can do on the world around us. And I leave you with that wish that let us all thrive, let us take our country and the world forward, and let's build a world which is full of abundance and happiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Madan. That was very, very inspiring. Those stories, I think, really resonated with many of our youth, who are being blessed with this education here, and in turn, they want to bless other children with an education as well. Our final speaker for this session is Dr. Rupa Vasudevan. Dr. Rupa Vasudevan is an educationist, socialpreneur, and investor with more than 22 years of experience in setting up institutions, schools, and universities that provide students holistic experiences. She's the founder and chancellor of the Bharatiya Engineering, Science and Technology Innovation University in Andhra Pradesh. She is the co-founder and global president of the World Forum for Education, an independent non-profit organization working globally to advance sustainable development and humanitarian response while facilitating public good through knowledge sharing and education. She was appointed as one of the 10 academicians in the General and Executive Council of the Karnataka State Higher Education Council, the apex body on the education in the state. Dr. Rupa Vasudevan.
Tara, pranams to Sadguru. I am so inspired today hearing the earlier speakers. And what I gauge out of one thing, both of them told all of us, is the fact that how do some people make so much change in the livelihoods of people? How do they relate to the community so well? How much of outreach they are able to do? Now, my answer and what my analysis to all this is primarily the fact that while everybody else is sleepwalking, they cared to notice something. And you notice something when you are curious. Unless you are curious, you cannot be mindful of what is happening around you. And to notice and to act, you need to care. You need to have empathy, compassion, as what Madanji just said. The story of Sumita ji is purely of grit and perseverance. She is not a born entrepreneur or has a family of entrepreneurs, but she did it because she pursued her dreams relentlessly. So I think the magic words here, and for all of us to take away, is A, notice. Be curious, stay curious. 2, have care and empathy to people around you. Be mindful of what is happening around you. Be active. And act, do not leave until you get what you're out there to get. So I think it's a great, great thing. And my topic today is primarily to do with empowering girls with proven methods and bringing them over to the higher education. Well, I've been into education for a rather long time. And what I have understood, especially in this country where we are, we have the highest number of institutions that I can call, we are the number one in the world when it comes to graduates, passing out every year. We have more than 1,000 universities. We have 265 million children in school. The ratio falls drastically when it comes to the passing percentage of the students. It's about 8 million a year. But still, we are one of the largest, one of the largest. No country handles so much. And we are one of the largest, countries having graduates passing out every year, which is 8 million. Out of the 8 million, it's a 50% of girls. Now, out of 265 million children who are in school, only about 60 million go to the college. Not that I'm a big advocate of college and bachelor's degree and master's degree, but since I'm here to speak about students being empowered, girls being empowered enough to come and start learning in the universities, I would like to mention that there is a huge drop in the percentage when it comes to the students coming into the school and then going into the college and then passing out from the college and then building their careers, becoming entrepreneurs. Now let me first come to the fact, what does empowerment mean to me? I think we all need to follow our calling, to find our calling. We might be a housewife or a scientist, or a teacher, or a student, any of these. But we need to find our calling. We need to be mindful of what is happening around us, about our lessons, our experiences around us, and say, yes, this is my calling. And when that calling happens, I think we need to pursue it. And that's where many of the women take a backseat. I have a family, I have a child, I have in-laws, old parents. I think I should drop my education, or I think I cannot continue in my career. They lead, I would not call miserable lives, but they repent about this all the rest of their life after that opportunity is lost. I have met several such girls and several such women who are brilliant and who did not listen to their calling. And then, of course, the life is not as interesting as it is because you're just compromising and living a life which really is not carved out by you, it's carved out by the society around you. So I think empowerment is to follow and pursue your calling, and whenever that is, it could be when you're 40, when you're 60, when you're 20, when you're 30, but please follow your calling. This is my message to all the girls out there who will complete their education very soon. You're one of the privileged to be, you're one of the 8 million who pass out every year. You can be the entrepreneur of tomorrow. You can have a wonderful career. You can contribute to the economic and the social value of our nation. Do not miss this opportunity. Second, empowerment to me, because we live in a very, very open, beautiful country where women are treated as goddesses. We do not live in Afghanistan. We are here where people promote, people are there to encourage. Now see, Mr. Madan has been going out and finding children who just know about sunset and sunrise, and see the transformation that has happened in the child, in the students. They are working today. So we live in a country where there are such people. It's very easy to find a platform if you're really inclined and up to it. What we as women need is basically not to speak about empowerment. We don't need platforms to be speaking about empowerment. We actually need our voices to be heard by the right people and pursue that dream. Now here, I think understanding of empowerment, according to me, is a courage to say no, while saying yes might be very, very simple. Courage to say no, to reset, to reclaim, and to say, this is what I will do for myself. Now, back in 2016, I knew somebody for a very long time, Bharatlal Meenaji is here. He was the IAS in the Karnataka cadre in Bangalore, and we ended up speaking about what is lacking in the education system. So we all know that knowledge is superpower. Knowledge is superpower, then what is education? There are two theories in our country when it comes to education. One, there is a thought that says it's a desire to learn. Two, it is a need to learn. Now, the second category is more dangerous because then you're not passionate about what you're doing. You are there only because somebody has told you that there is a need to learn. Either ways, according to me, unless the skill sets and the knowledge that I provide as an educator makes a meaningful change in the life of the student, which translates into social and economic value of my country, and that innovation which revolutionized the world is what is education. And this is the education that we are here to impart. The university that I run is called the Bharatiya Engineering, Science and Technology Innovation University. And when I first met Bharatlal Meenaji, we spoke about how much of a disconnect that we see with the urban children, with our culture, with our heritage, with the values, with the we have a massive cultural disconnect that we need to bridge as a university, as an institution. Then we observed the fact that 72% of our country is the country of agriculture. Most of our population is into farming. What are we doing for them? How is it that we are making a difference to this community? I have seen several children who see their parents suffer all their lives with their lands. It's not easy to grow, it's not easy to cultivate, and it's very difficult to sell in the market. They see it, they leave the agriculture, they go to the cities, work in meager jobs like peons, like office assistants. It's absolutely wretched lives. And then we decided between the both of us that let's start something in rural areas that will make a difference to the farmers, that will make a difference to the people, the communities there who are into farming. The very interesting part about our education system is that medical education until about 2012 is what I'm speaking about. Medical education is privatized. You can cut humans and experiment on them. But agriculture education is not. There must be some politics behind it, which I do not want to speak of here in this platform. But agricultural education cannot be offered by private institutions or private universities. Now, this was another challenge because we were keen on enabling farmers to ensure that they have a platform. There was a time when we had Green Revolution and people around the world had food to eat because of that. Then we had Milk Revolution where we built cooperatives, and it did not do so well, but yes, milk is doing very well in some parts of India. The third and now is to do with income revolution for farmers. And that is not possible until we say Karnataka has only 2,000 seats to offer in agriculture, Andhra Pradesh has only 3,000 seats to offer in agriculture, and the students who wish to learn agriculture are 60,000 to 1 lakh and who give their examinations. We saw this disparity and then started working towards making the government and making the statutory bodies and the accreditatory bodies understand that there are very few private universities who are really willing to do something as non-glamorous and non-engineering as an agriculture, forestry and horticulture, and we wish to do it at Rayalaseema, which is again the most backward area of Andhra Pradesh. We didn't stop our work there. We ensured that we call this an innovation university, the Bharatiya Engineering, Science and Technology Innovation University, which will primarily focus on agriculture technology, forestry, horticulture and agricultural business. We do have students in data science and artificial intelligence because we believe that technology can make a real intervention in agriculture for even marginal farmers. So we incorporated the university through a legislation of an act in 2018, and our act was passed. Then we started agricultural programs. It was very tough to convince students around that area to join the course because they did not see value in doing an agricultural program, bachelor's or a master's. We ensured that we go around with our counselors and with our speakers and ensure that we go around at least 40 villages across in the radius of the university. Talk to them about how agriculture is important and how after 12th they can take up agriculture as a course, horticulture as a course, forestry as a course, and then started the university in 2018 with 100 modest students. Today, this year, we have a convocation for these 100 students. All the 100 students have been placed in agricultural companies who are into seed production, who are into soil development, who are into polyhouse and protected cultivation. 4 of my students have joined Malaysia Orbi Seeds as researchers. And as we speak, there are 6 students in Israel Ben Gurion University who are doing their course of summer program in aquaponics. This is where I think that's where we can intervene and make a difference in education. I do not believe that we need a bachelor's education. The world is moving towards gig economy, which is taking over all other jobs. We all have to agree to this. The future is not about a degree from a prestigious institution. Well, that is important as well. But it is about working for anyone, anywhere, anytime. It is that willingness and it is the skill that will take our children from where they are to another level. Yes, it is important to talk about this to students around our area, to the students who come in their 10th standard and 11th standard, that you have options other than graduation and BCom, BA, BSc. There is agriculture, there's forestry, there's horticulture, there's agricultural business. We must ensure that we give them skills during their school time itself. Now, the National Education Policy has some very wonderful interventions when it comes to agriculture. As a part of policy itself, there is a section where they are going to introduce agricultural education at the school level. And this is very important because by the time the student comes to us in higher education, which is after 12th, they have already concretized their minds into what they want to do, how they want to do education and things like that. But if they start understanding the fruits and that feeling of fulfilling, the fulfilling feeling they get when they grow something when they are children. I see it in my daughter, she's 17 and she's been growing all her life. And I see it in the university because the first, second, third time they are not able to grow, but then when they are actually able to see the fruit or the vegetable coming out and when they harvest it, I think that's the joy which I cannot express here. And that can only be felt when you do it. So agricultural education is extremely important right from the school level. And that's when we garner interest in students to go back to their fields and not leave their fields and do some menial jobs in the city. Agriculture has to show the way that, there is money in farming. If you do it the right way, if you follow the right methodology, we can grow very good natural fruits and vegetables. I had been to Israel last year, and there I saw that there's this woman, her name is Dr. Rivki Ophir, she's a senior scientist at the Arava Dead Sea. It's Dead Sea. Now India, our country, is blessed with such biodiversity, which is dying by the day. Just as Madam Ghosh was mentioning about the dying arts, we have such issues in conservation of our own biodiversity. I'm aware of about about 700 varieties of beans that existed, indigenous varieties, which is now down to 17. There are serious issues. We are losing our vegetables, our fruits, and thereby we are losing our health. We are also, sacrificing ourselves to westernized food habits. And there is an issue. Now, here in Israel, at a God-forsaken place, Dead Sea, where the salinity levels are so high, that there is a plant, water management plant at every farm. There is no choice because the salinity levels are so high. And with rainfall of about 1 mm a year, here she was, growing fruits and vegetables that were being exported out of Israel. Now there are such countries which are, and Israel is number 1 in agriculture today. How can a country which is so small, which is 1/3 of our population, which has zero biodiversity, overtake a country like India, which has the beautiful mountains, coastal areas, which has, red soil, black soil, all types of biodiversity that we can imagine. So yes, we've taken it up as a mission, as our life's goal, between me and my co-founder Bharatlal Minaji, that we will do this until the end. It is a huge country, there's huge potential. We started a company called Evergreen Naturals, which only deals with getting the farm produce from the farmers. First, give them technology, give them the seeds, indigenous ones, take the produce from them and manage the entire supply chain for them without middlemen. So we created a parallel company called Evergreen Naturals just to substantiate and show the students of the university that farming is profitable. And they can do this as a profession. I'm very proud to say 2 of my students have started their own nurseries where they only propagate indigenous varieties of seeds, indigenous varieties of fruits and vegetables. They sell it in the market. Then there is this girl whose name is Vaishnavi. She started something called as, through our indigenous variety of trees, she started the smaller varieties of them by grafting and by showing different technologies, using different techniques. She's doing very well. She sells her small plants for about 5,000 a small plant. She just sold one to me day before yesterday. So yes, they're doing wonderful work and they are extremely aggressive. Now, there's another statistics which I would like to tell you. 65% of my students are girls. It's a labor-intensive course. They have to stand in the sun. They have to stand in the sun and work 8 hours a day. Farming is not easy. And 65% are girls. And as Madam said some time ago, Madam Ghosh said some time ago that, they have the grit and perseverance. We think of urban ladies and urban girls as, stronger and more knowledgeable and disciplined and all of that. It's actually the reverse. It's actually the reverse. They are very strong. These girls from the villages around my university, they're very strong. They work better than the boys. They are there in the fields all day. They grow and they give a tough cracked nut to, negotiation. They are very focused. They do not reduce the price even by 1 rupee. Excellent negotiators. Strong-willed, excellent negotiators, and now well-read as well. So I think what we need is to look around us, see where there is a problem, see where there is an issue, and that is not possible unless we have empathy, we care for the people around us. And my only request to all the children here, students here, is the fact that we need to look around us, we need to have care, we need to identify issues, we need to start working on them. Also, one last point I would like to make before I leave. It has pained me all through the time that I have been an educationist. We have more than 60% of our females as teachers in the secondary level. Now, since we are speaking about education here, in the primary section, in the higher secondary section. In the higher education, we have about 40% teachers. But what happens to them when it comes to leadership roles? against 89% of men as deans, as principals, as vice chancellors, and as chancellors, women are at a dismal 8%. Why is that? What stifles the growth of women beyond a certain level? That's where, in fact, I was searching for a vice chancellor very recently, and out of the 60 interactions we did with the search committee, I found 2 ladies, and they also did not join. Why? One of them cited the reason that I live in Hyderabad, I cannot come to Gaunavarapalli, I have a 14-year-old son. And they are unapologetic about it. I have never heard a man during my interactions or interview with for any position, him giving me this example of I have a child and I'm sorry I cannot join you because of this. Now I do not know if the woman herself has to be blamed for this, because that is not right. It is the society. It is the way we've been brought up. It is the way, this socio-cultural aspect that has been ingrained in us, that we do not want to move out of this shell. If a woman wants, she can set up her home anywhere she likes. Because this nurturing ability, the humility, is ingrained in us. I think that's where we need an intervention, and I urge all the girls here to not stop. To never stop dreaming big. And Madanji was very clear about it. Dream big. And reach that just by dreaming big does not help. You need to work towards it. And you are the only one who can empower yourself. You yourself, because we live in such a beautiful country, you don't need a third person to empower you. I never understood this word empower really. Because I've faced a lot of battle in life. I was a vice chancellor in a room of 51 male vice chancellors. It was tough. And I was young, so I was always called a girl. This is how it is. But then, this is not about feminism. This is about some issue which needs address. We need to have more and more women in leadership positions in education. And I end with that. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm thankful to the organizers and thankful to the audience to put up with me for so long. And I'm greatly inspired by my speakers here. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Rupa. I think you'll be happy to know that many of our girl students, they're going to take up a lot of teaching roles in future, and we hope that many of them will also become chairpersons and other leadership roles in our institutions. In fact, after they complete their graduation, they're sent to different campuses as interns, where they are given first-hand experience on how to manage these institutions, finance, mentoring, teaching. They take care of all the children. They take up negotiations with vendors. They do everything. So they're all being trained in a very wonderful way, and we're very happy to share that with you. We now request Mr. Madanji to please give us a quick roundup of today's session.
This is going to be a tough task given all the wonderful inputs that we got. But, as you were speaking, Dr. Rupa, I was really wondering why did the university start many, many years ago when I could have come and joined as well. I would love to come and visit. At a larger summary, so let me try to be very brief. And, I was just jotting down some of the points that struck me as wonderful learnings from this. I think at a larger level, Dr. Rupa pointed to a very critical issue that we all need to address right now, which is sustainability of the planet and climate change, and therefore agricultural practices, what we need to do. That's a point to be noted as you think about your own journeys and careers. What is it that each one of us can do to make our own lives far more greener and the world around us greener, and therefore learning and picking up skills around agriculture and agricultural practices is going to be a very, very critical ask of the future. Right? So I couldn't agree more with her call saying that we need a far more agriculture graduates and people who are knowledgeable about it. The common themes that I picked up is why can't we have much more women leaders? Right? And that's common across, I think, what Shwetaji, you said, and Dr. Rupa. How do we then inculcate those leadership skills, and what do we need to do as society together to be able to create the scaffolding for women to succeed and to thrive as leaders? I think that's a reflection that we need to do. It is just not, as you said, an issue of men or women. I think it's a larger societal framework challenge that we have. The second thing which struck me was about the power of the collective. You know, I love the story of 1,000 women giving 1,000 rupees each and therefore setting up a thing. This I've heard and seen that when women come together, and the SHG groups that we have seen in the country today, there are over about 8 crore self-help groups in the country today, and the collective power of women and the community coming together is something which is magical. So the second learning that I would want to reflect is not just as self-help groups, but what can you and your group do together? As there's a lovely African proverb which says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together. I think that going together is a very critical message that I took away from this. Third, I think all of us highlighted it eloquently, that it's about passion, compassion, finding your purpose, going after your calling, and being unstoppable. Right? And the moment you realize that you're unstoppable, and you believe you're unstoppable, there's nothing that can stop you. Again, both in their own journeys, and I truly salute the entrepreneurs that we have here, not just an educationist or an artisan creator. The entrepreneurial spirit that you saw in both of them truly reflect that about dreaming, going with your passion, operating with compassion, and making sure that it is just not charity, that there is a sustainable business that can be built, and it has to be built that way. I think more than the words that we heard from them, your presence and the energy that you brought up there spoke much more eloquently than the eloquent speech that you shared with all of us. I want to leave you with a last thought, which was, I don't know why, but the song was playing in my mind as I was hearing Dr. Rupa and thing. I don't know how many of you are fans of Dr. Rajkumar. Do we have Rajkumar fans in the audience? Okay. So there is a lovely song which you should listen to from a very old movie. And Dr. Rajkumar there goes on to say, in Kannada, I'll say that in Kannada and translate it. It says, Agadu yendu kaikatti kulitare sagavu kelesadu munde. Right? So basically the song goes beautifully. It says that there will be a lot of people around you who will say this won't happen, you're just dreaming, you're foolish. But the song is so powerfully picturized that he says, if you sit with your hands folded and say nothing is possible, nothing is possible. It only moves when you have the will in your heart to go out there, take the initiative, and make a difference, and then the world will change. So I want to leave you with that thought, saying, go on, be unstoppable, and you will see the magic unfolding for you. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've all heard a variety of very interesting opinions, and I think we can all learn and grow from each other, and that's what these conferences are about. So I think we've had a very fruitful session today. We've been discussing about the social impact study of empowering women with higher education, and we've had a very diverse, a panel of speakers. Sumita ji from sort of the artisans and arts and crafts field, and Dr. Rupa from the education and agriculture, and Mr. Madan Padaki from social entrepreneurship, youth change maker perspective. So I think it's been very interesting for all of us, and we've had a lot of key takeaways and learning points. And on behalf of all of us, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our wonderful and inspiring speakers. And may we please request Dr. K.P. Sailila to please hand over a token of our love first to Dr. Rupa Vasudevan. Thank you, Dr. Rupa. And request Dr. Sailila to please also hand over the token of our love to Ms. Sumita Ghosh. And I request Dr. Hanumant Rao Naidu, Registrar of Academics at the University, to please hand over the token of our love to Mr. Pandan Padiki. And with that, we come to the close of technical session 2. And we thank everyone for your time and for your attention.